today's lecture. Our topic was data types in JavaScript, and the topics we have already covered are numbers, strings, and Boolean data types. All these were primitive data types, and under these primitive types, one special category that is called undefined and null data type, those were missing. So let us first understand what are these two data types. So one is undefined data type and another is null data type. So let us see first what is this undefined data type. And undefined means the variable that has not been defined. So in JavaScript, if you declare a variable and you do not initialize it with any kind of data, then its data type is considered as undefined. Since you know that in JavaScript, the data type of a variable is inferred from the information that is stored inside it. If we store a numeric data, its data type will be numeric. If we store a string kind of data, then its data type will be string. But if you declare a variable and you do not initialize with any kind of information, then it will infer its data type as undefined. So let us see an example where my undefined variable, and we do not initialize it with any kind of information. So now if we want to print this variable, the result of this variable through document.write my undefined, and let us see the result on the browser, run it on our live server. So we have undefined, so its data type is undefined. So this means undefined is any variable that has been declared and it has not been initialized. It is a good practice that you should always initialize variables before using them. Otherwise, you will get some unexpected results. Next is null data type. So what is a null data type? It is also a special kind of data type under primitive data types. And null means presence of no information. Sorry, null means no information or no value. If you do not have any information available or any value available, you can initialize it with a null. Null means the information is currently not available. So remember, null is not equivalent to an empty string or 0. So it is not equivalent to empty string or a 0. So we cannot consider that an empty string or a 0 is equivalent to null. Null means no information. So for example, if I defined a variable where my null equal to null. So I defined a variable and I have initialized it with this special inbuilt value called null. So now this variable will be having a null data type because I have not given any kind of information to this variable. So let us print it out. So we will copy this, my null. Before, let us precede it with a break. And see the result in the browser, null. So its data type is null. So these were two special kind of data types inside primitive data type. And remember, whenever you define a variable without any value, it is undefined data type. And whenever you define a variable and information is currently not available, then you can initialize it with this special null value and its data type will be null. This null can be checked in different expressions so that we can check whether any variable is having a null value or not. Now let us move to non-primitive data types, or what we call non-primitive data types or composite data types. So let us see what are the non-primitive or composite data types. Under non-primitive or composite data types, we have object data type, we have array data type, so let us understand one by one. So what is this object data type, how to define objects, how to use them, how to modify them, operate on them, then array data type. So let us first take this object data type. So first, what is an object? It is a complex data type. Why do we say that complex data type? Because it does not hold a single kind of data inside it. When we were talking about numbers, strings, or boolean, they were holding information of single kind. But in object, we can store information of multiple nature. For example, an object may hold a string data type, a numeric data type, an array data type, a boolean data type at the same time. So that is why we call it is a complex data type, and it allows you to store a collection of data. So if you want to operate on some real life objects, for example, a student, there are a number of information pieces associated with a student. For example, his name, his parentage, his date of birth, his registration number, his marks, his subjects, his scores. So it consists of a collection of data of heterogeneous type, and if we want to handle such kind of data inside JavaScript, then we can make use of this object data type. So now let us see how we can define these objects. So in objects, each object can have properties. Inside objects, we have properties. For example, we have student. What are the properties associated with student? His name, his parentage, his roll number, his mark, subjects, date of birth, address, mobile number, pin code. These are the properties of an object. So we have objects, and each property is having a value. For example, for name, we have a value of the name associated with that object. For example, if you are a student and your name is Akib, then the property is name and its value is Akib. So we have properties associated with objects and values, and we call them key value pairs. Key is the name of the property, and we have key value pairs. Key is the name of the property and value is the value associated with that property. Now, this key is always a string. So when I say string, this means it will be quoted inside two double quotes. So this is always a string. And value, it can consist of any kind of data. It can be a numeric data, a string type data, a boolean type data, a date type data, which is a complex data type, and it can be an array. So it can hold any kind of data. So we have key value pairs, and we can associate any kind of data with its value. Now, how to define an object in JavaScript. So here is how we define an object. Now let us know how to define an object in JavaScript. So in order to define an object, we can create an object with the help of curly braces and followed by an optional list of properties. For example, if I want to define an object of object of student with properties name, parentage, course, college. So if I want to define this object of a student having properties name, parentage, course, and college, so we can define it where student equal to then a pair of curly braces, and inside these curly braces we define the different properties as key value pairs. So we then finally conclude the object declaration with a semicolon. So inside these curly braces we can insert different properties, we can write different properties of the object. For example, we have name, and that name followed by a semicolon. Semicolon is equivalent to an equal sign, and then the value. Name, for example, Akib Ahmed. So this is the first property. We have defined a variable of type student. Inside the curly braces we are now entering different properties. The first property, it is key is name. Why do we call it a key? Because we access this property, the value of this property, with the help of this name key, and then a semicolon which is equivalent to an equal sign, and then the value. Now we separate different properties with the help of comma. Comma is a separator, so comma. Now we have next property, that is parentage, and for parentage we have the value. For example, any value, Ghulam Rasool. Then we have third property, that is course, and we can have, for example, BCA. Then we have college, then we have college, and it is value, for example, government degree college Pulwama. So here we have defined our first object student with 4 properties. The first property is name, parentage, course, and then college. And the value for the first property is Akib Ahmed, Ghulam Rasool, BC, and Common Degree College. Now, remember, since this key is always a string, you can omit these quotes. So these are optional. So we can omit these quotes. For example, I can directly write it as name, parentage, course, and then the college. So this will define an object, student object, with these properties. So for example, let us add one more property, that is roll number. So we can add roll number 1. Roll number 1. Now these 4 properties are having string type of information stored inside them, but this roll number is having a numeric information. So that is why I told you that these properties can contain any kind of information. We can also add one more property, for example, is enrolled. So whether he is currently enrolled in this course or not, is enrolled. So if he is enrolled, we can write true. So this is a Boolean type of property that will hold true false value. Is enrolled. If it is enrolled in the course, then we can provide true value or a false value. So this is a basic object structure, how we can define objects inside JavaScript. So we can define objects with different kind of heterogeneous information. We can even provide functions to these objects, which we will cover later. Now, next is how to access object properties. Now, if we want to access these properties and we want to use them, or we want to display this information, how to access this object property? There are two methods to access object properties. One is by making use of a dot operator, just like we use in case of classes in C++ or Java. And another is by making use of curly square brackets. So let us see these two types in working. So for example, we want to display the name of this student. So we can display it by making use of dot operator or a square bracket. So let us see document dot write first. Let us put a break. Name of student is so first we write the name of the object, that is student, dot follow. After the dot we write the name of the property that we want to display or that we want to use inside our expression. So if I write the student dot, the IntelliSense will pop up with all the properties that are currently assigned to this object student. So for example, we want to display the name. So using dot operator, the name of the object dot followed by the property. So the simple syntax in first case is name of object then dot operator then name of property. This is the first way of accessing properties of an object. So let us see this in our browser. Name of the student is Akib Ahmed. So we have got the first property. Similarly, you can concatenate more properties. Parentage object name, that is student dot parentage. So it is easy to access these properties with the help of dot operator. Another is the array style. Array style using square brackets. So you can consider this student as an array and these names as the indexes to these different property values. So using this square bracket, we can access different properties of this array. For example, the general syntax is name of object then square bracket and inside square bracket name of property, name of the property. For example, let us copy this line and we want to access them. This time we will be using the square brackets notation. So inside this student, inside these square brackets, we will type the name of the property, that is name. Similarly here in case of parentage, so this is the name of the object followed by a square bracket, and then inside these square brackets we have given the name of the property. So let us see it. So this is equivalent to the first way. So these are two ways how to access the properties of an object. Now One more topic is how to change object property values. Now, if you want to change any value, for example, if we want to change this course from BCA to some other course, BSc or anything else, how to change that? Again, you can make use of same dot or square bracket notation. You can use this property as a variable and then assign different values to it. For example, if I want to change student dot course, so equivalent to, I can provide new value, for example, BSc. Now, if after that we want to print student course, document dot write student course is student dot course. So student course is BSc. So this property has been updated. Similarly, you can make use of brackets. For example, if you want to change his status from is enrolled to false, student dot is enrolled equal false. So this will update the property is enrolled to false. So again, if we want to print is student enrolled dot is enrolled. So now this is false. Previously it was true. Now we have updated it using this bracket notation. So we can similarly update any information. You simply precede it with the name of the object and then square brackets or the dot operator and then name of the property and then assign any new value to it. So one more topic that is associated with it is how to delete properties of an object. If you want to delete any property that you think is no longer valid or you don't want to put it inside that object. For example, if I want to remove this is enrolled property. So how can we delete that? We can make use of the delete operator and we can delete any kind of property. So we can use delete operator of JavaScript and the syntax is delete followed by name of property. So for example, if we want to delete student dot is enrolled property. So now this student dot enrolled property will no longer belong to this object student, and if we want try to print it, for example, document dot write student dot student is enrolled student dot is enrolled. Now let us see. So it is showing it is undefined because we have already deleted this property and it no longer belongs to the student object. You can delete any kind of property by use of this delete operator. So this was a brief introduction about the object data type inside JavaScript. There are a few more concepts associated with this object that we will be covering later on in this course, such as how to define functions inside this object, how to access those functions, that we will be covering later on. Let us now move to another data type, an important data type in JavaScript, that is arrays. Arrays. What are arrays? It is a complex variable. An array is a complex variable. It allows us to store more than one values or you can say a group of values under a single variable name. For example, let us understand it with the help of an example. If I want to store information about 5 students, so I will create variables where student1 equal to and his information, where student2 equal to where student3 and so on. Now think a scenario where we are having 50 number of students, then this means we have to declare 50 variables for 50 students. And when we are going to process the information regarding those 50 students, we have to deal with 50 variables. So that makes the problem much complex. So what we can do, we can make use of arrays. Arrays allow us to store a collection of variables under a single name. So in JavaScript, we can make use of arrays to simplify the process of defining these multiple variables under a single common name. So how to declare variables inside JavaScript? So we can declare a variable using two ways to declare variables. One way is to define them with the help of square brackets. And this is easy and convenient. And second way is with the help of array constructor. We can make use of the array constructor to define and declare arrays. So let us see the first way. For example, where if we want to declare a very array of 50 students or 40 students or whatever, so we can declare it with the help of var and name of the array. Let us call it a student array equal to, and then in the square brackets we provide the various array elements. So first one was Majid, second was Farooq, third one was Rashid, fourth one was Guzar, and so on. So this syntax will declare an array of 4 students under the single name student array. Now with the help of this student array, we can access any of these values. The second way is we can declare it with the help of array constructor. So how to declare? Where student array, let us call it array 2 equal to new array, and here and inside these braces we will be providing the elements. So our elements are Majid, Farooq, Rashid, Zar. Both these ways will declare arrays. So we can make use of either the square brackets or the array constructor. So now, question is how to access the values of an array. So accessing the elements of an array is easy. We can access the elements of an array with the help of indexes provided within the square brackets. So for example, if we want to display this Farouk, the name of this Farouk, second element of this array, how to display it? So we can write document dot write second element of array is, so name of the array, student array, and in the square brackets we will provide the index. The index of Farouk is, normally it looks that this is the first element and Farouk is the second element, but remember that array indexes are zero based in most of the programming languages. What does that mean? That means that the array index starts with 0. So this first element is at 0th index, second is at first, third, and fourth. So we are having first, second, and third. This is at third position. So we will provide for Farooq it is at 0, 1, first position. So this is a second element, but since the indexing starts from 0, it is at second position. 1 at position 1. So this will print the second element of the array, which is Farooq in our case. So let us see the result. We have not started our live server. Here is the result. Second element of the array is Farooq. Similarly, we can access this element in this second array, which is at index 3, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So let us duplicate this line with the shortcut Shift Alt and arrow down. Last element of array is student array 2, and here we will write 3. Let us see the result. Guzar. So this is how we can access the elements of an array. Now another is, if we want to know how many elements are inside an array, how to determine the length of an array. To get the length of an array, you can make use of length property. Length property. So for example, document.write, the array is having how many elements? Thus we can write student array dot length. Just put a break at the start. So we can access the number of elements present in an array with the help of this property student.length. Let us preview it. The array is having 4 elements. So there are 4 elements inside this array. Now let us see one more option. Let us know how to add a new or we can say append a new element to an array. For that we can make use of some functions. One function is push. And another one is UNSHIFT. So we can make use of these two functions to add an array, to add a new element to an array. For example, if we want to add a new element, for example, Iqbal to the student array, so what can we do? We can write student array dot push, and here we will provide the element equal. Here we will provide the element equal. Now let us see the size of our array. This time the array length should be 5 because now we have added a new element. So here the array is having 5 elements. So this new element equal has been added to the array. But remember, using push adds the element at the end of the array. It adds the new element always at end of the array. So this means this equal will be appended at the last position of the array. What if we want to add an element at the beginning of an array? So how to add an element at the beginning of an array? So for that we can make use of this unshift function. So for example, I want to add an element maruf at the beginning of a student of our student array. So we can write student array dot unshift, and here we will add the element. Here we will add an element maruf. Now let us see the first element of our array. Document dot write the first element is student array of 0. So the first element is maruf. So this means with the help of this unshift, one more thing, remember, using above functions we can add more elements, more than one as well. For example, if you want to add 2 elements or 3 elements at the end of the array, so you can use push, and then inside this you can provide the values. So this will add 3 elements at the end of the array. Similarly, if we want to add 3 elements at the beginning of an array, we can make use of unshift. This will add 3 elements at the beginning of this array. So now you know how to add new elements to an array. You can add elements at the beginning or at the end using push and unshift functions. Now how to remove an element from an array? So we can make use of 2 important functions. One is called pop and another is called shift. These 2 functions are used to remove an element from the array, and you can easily guess this pop. This will be removing an element at the first element or last element. You can guess it will be to remove the last element, because push is used to append an element at the end of the array, and pop is used to remove an element at the end of the array. Unshift is used to append a new element at the beginning of an array, and shift is used to remove an element at the beginning of an array. So we can remove some element, student dot pop, and we can assign it to some variable. Remove element equal to student.pop, and then we can display it using this function. Removed element, removed element. Let us see the result. Maruf. So Maruf is the element which has been removed from the end of an array. Now we can remove the first element of an array using, let us copy these two lines. Student dot shift, the element removed is, so this student dot shift, it will remove the element, first element of the array, and this pop, it will remove last element of an array. You can see the result. So we have defined the same variable twice. The first element is, there is an error, student.pop is not a function. What happened? Student.pop is the last element of an array. Oh, sorry, it is student array dot pop. We have written student array dot shift. Now let us see the result. So the removed element removed is Murtaza, and the element removed is Rahat. This Murtaza has been removed at the end of the array, and this Rahat has been moved at the beginning of the array. There is a general function that can be used to add or remove elements from an array, from any position of an array, and that function is SPLICE. This SPLICE function can be used to add an array element or remove elements, and it can be used to add or remove from any position. Its syntax is array dot splice with some parameters. First one is the index start, or from you want to start removing or adding elements, and this is a mandatory field. Then we have some optional number of elements to delete. This is the delete count, that is the number of elements that you want to delete, and then elements, element 1, element 2, and so on. So let us see it in working. So for example, if we want to remove the first element of an array. So where removed element equal to, we have student array dot splice, and then we will provide, we want to remove the first element, that is at 0th index, and then number of elements that we want to delete. We want to delete one element. If you don't want to delete an element, then you can provide the second argument as 0. So this means we don't want to delete an element, rather we want to add elements. So let us display this removed element. Removed using splice is remove ELE. And you see the result. The element removed using splice is Manzoor. So it has been removed from the beginning. Similarly, for example, if you want to remove an element at the end of an array, so for that we can use remove and student array dot splice, and then the index at which we want to remove the element. So we want to remove at the end of the array. So you don't know how many elements are inside an array. For that you can make use of the length property. So we can say student array dot length minus 1. Why minus 1? Because the index starts from 0 and the array length gives us the total count. Then number of elements that we want to remove, 1. To remove one element, so let us display it using this function. The element removed and using splice is remove and see the result. The element removed at end using splice is Manzoor, because previously we entered some similar elements inside this array. So first element and last element is same. That is why it has been removed. We can also print the array. The element is now available inside our array. Print or find, and then we will give the name of the array, student array. It will print all the elements of an array. So here we have Manzoor, Murtaza, Maruf, and Rahat. Similarly, if you want to add some element at the beginning, using this function, we can write it student array dot splice 0. We don't want to delete any element, 0, and then we want to add some elements, test1, test2, and so on. This function, let us display now array again. Student array. Let's put a break at the start of this array. So we are having test1, test2. These two elements have been added at the beginning of this array. Similarly, you can add elements at the end of array using this syntax, student array dot length minus 1. This will give you the end of the array, or you can add anywhere in between. Now this splice function always returns an array. If some elements have been removed, then those elements will be provided as an array, or if some elements have been added, then it will return an empty array. So you can make use of this splice function. It is a powerful function which can be used to add or remove elements from anywhere, any place of this array. So this was all about these arrays. So Today we have covered some important topics, the unstructured or complex data types in JavaScript. One was the object data type, and then we studied something about these arrays. So thanks for watching this.